Wednesday.
Someone took a picture of you hugging Zach, and you didn't think to tell me.
When the tension...
It's not gonna work, Gary. Oh, see, I don't know. You have less than 24 hours to come up with the money.
...comes to blows.
You going back to jail.
Every time we get into an argument, you running.
Could the damage be permanent?
You know I lost my job. I don't know what I'm going to do now. I'm sorry. You betrayed me?
Stop acting crazy!
Get out!
Tyler Perry's...
Okay, Sistas fans, you just saw the promo for this week's episode. Season 5, Episode 18, Friends Are Lovers. Karen and Andy deal with a matter of betrayal that threatens the sisterhood. Fatima leaves Zach for the night to make hard decisions about what her next move should be. So, picking up where we left off, it is a full-blown fight in the restaurant, or the steam plant. And I mean, you know, everybody's backed off. I think you see Robin kind of holding Andy back to protect her. I mean, this fight is so intense that everybody in the surrounding tables and booths have gotten up, because at first it looks like, you know, Zach has the advantage, but then Aaron flips him on a table. Next thing you know, I think Andy tries to pull Karen back because it looks like she's yelling, you know, trying to get him to stop. And then from there, Fatima and Angela come in while everything's going down. And I think around the time it ends, we see Zach having Aaron flipped on the ground. He's just punching him. And it's just, you know, like the Wild Wild West up in here. So from there, it looks like everybody's kind of pulled back. The manager gets involved. And a bunch of different character interactions happen here. For one, you have Gary showing up. And he's talking to Robin, pretty much, you know, rubbing it in his face about the $14 million and the fact that he has less than 24 hours to come up with something. But not to jump too far ahead, but we do see at, I believe, Andy's penthouse, the fact that Robin goes, well, basically Andy's like, look, I wouldn't underestimate Gary. He's very cunning. And we got this scene where we just randomly see him rush to a booth and nervously make a phone call. Maybe to Hayden, I don't know, but that seems to be the case. But over at the penthouse, you know, Robin's like, oh, I know he is, but I got him. And remember in the last episode, Andy pretty much requested, oh, wait, you're going to have a meeting tomorrow with all the guys? Make sure it happens after I get to work. That way I can see it. But basically, we're going to see a situation where Gary is super cocky, but it's going to make his comeuppance the next day feel even more rewarding. So, I'm guessing the order of operations is we start off the episode at the steam plant, we finish up the fight and everything, and then from there we have the aftermath. Now, I do recall that Robin did offer to drive Andy to the steam plant, but she said she would drive herself, so I guess Robin goes to meet her at the penthouse, maybe after the whole thing with Gary, and then from there, it looks like we see Zach and Fatima go home. Then Fatima goes to the penthouse to talk with Andy. Karen shows up randomly, gets pissed off, goes home, and then Andy goes to try to console her. And then, of course, she gets thrown out. So let's go over everything because this is very complicated. So Zach and Fatima's first. They're over at the house. Fatima's like, you're going back to jail. And then Zach goes, every time we get into an argument, you run it. Well, honestly, Zach, this really isn't the time for that, because even though I agree with you, the way you conducted yourself led to some pretty reckless behavior, and now you're probably going to have to deal with some very, very bad consequences. So from there, we go over to the penthouse, and Fatima's upset, and she is talking with Andy. Andy's going, you can't let Karen get between you and Zach. And from there, Karen randomly pops up from the elevator going, yes, please don't. And then that leads to that whole debate about, you know, I've been on your side. No, you haven't, yada, yada, yada. My biggest question is, how is the photo going to be addressed? That's why I really want to know from this conversation. So from there, we also get the one part I really don't want to see, but it's happening. Before Fatima goes over to Andy's, Zach gets up in her face and is literally yelling, stop acting crazy. So then she, you know, shoves him away. As much as I don't like the way that she shoved him back, I kind of see why she did it. The fact that he's all up in her face talking crazy, but with her unrelenting attitude, I can see why he would do that. So let's just see how it plays out. So we get a lot of Karen here, and it's not a good look. But before we do that, let's just do a brief breakaway to Sabrina's apartment. She's talking with Danny. You know, I lost my job. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then Danny's like, I'm sorry. That's all they get in this trailer. And honestly, I couldn't care less, because the bulk of this is the aftermath of the Zach and Aaron fight. So Karen is just going off on Andy, and I hate it. So Andy starts off saying, someone took a picture of you hugging Zach. And then Karen goes, and you didn't think to tell me. People asking why didn't Andy say anything, because Fatima kind of made her swear to secrecy. Please don't tell Karen about this. Whatever you do, do not tell Karen about the picture. I mean, even if Andy did tell Karen, what would that have done? You know? I mean, you could argue, well, Karen would have found out about it. And not to mention, think of it this way. From Andy's perspective, Karen probably would be gleeful about it. You know, the fact that this picture disrupted Zach and Fatima's relationship, why would she even care? It's like it just feels like Andy needs to tell her every flipping detail of what's going on. And I mean, think of it from Andy's perspective as well. Not just because Fatima made her promise not to tell, but almost any time she's told Karen about anything Zach and Fatima related, she knows that it's some information Karen would use to conjure up a scheme in order to get Zach back or sabotage his current relationship. So she has every right not to tell her. And also on top of that, it's just like the whole them being engaged. She found out maybe an hour or so before Karen. And Karen can use her friends however she wants for her schemes, plans, and whatnot in games, like it's nobody's business. But the one time you don't tell her anything, even if you just found out like 3 seconds before her, keeping anything from Karen is the worst possible thing you can do in the world, and it's ridiculous. So she's talking to Andy like I don't even think child is the best. Okay, all of a sudden you don't know how to act, and Andy, you don't. And Andy goes, Karen, she has had my back, and so have I. I mean, maybe I should do a video breaking it down, like who's had her back more, but I don't know. Fatima has gotten Andy out of some bigger binds than Karen, but that doesn't take away from the times Karen has had Andy's back. So she literally goes, you betrayed me, and then yells at her to get out of her apartment. So that just lets me know that, okay, Karen and Andy deal with a matter of betrayal that threatens the sisterhood. I mean, again, does it really matter? So-called sisterhood seems more like a one-way street where the other girls are just pawns for Karen to use whenever she wants, but the fact that she's out of the loop for once, or more than once to be honest, it's just like, no, you don't do that, you get out of line. And I'm thinking to myself, Andy ought to just throw in her face the fact that she was the one that got her to the salon anyway. Remember, season 1, it was revealed that she loaned Karen the money to get the salon in the first place, but we never hear that being brought up again. It's just the fact that Karen has this controlling nature, in this sense of being the one who needs to be in control at all times. This air of self-importance that if you step out of line with her once, you betrayed me and you must go. I mean, like I said before, she's going to wind up with a baby and alone if she keeps this up. And if I were Andy, I wouldn't want to talk to her again, because at this point, what has Karen really done for Andy in the time she's been friends with Fatima? Let's be honest here. What has she really done? And also, I think an interesting twist for the episode, you know, when Fatima got upset with Zach and decided to leave for the night, she stayed at Angela's. What if she goes to Andy to stay with her at the penthouse? I think that would be pretty cool, an interesting change of pace. And I mean, the way Karen walks in on these two talking, it feels like when that one episode of SpongeBob, I'm talking like season 1, when Squidward gets Patrick and SpongeBob to fight with those bubbles, and as a result, it's both of them trying to make Squidward the new best friend. It's like Patrick isn't friends with SpongeBob anymore, so he tries to be friends with Squidward and vice versa. And it's like, my best friend and my ex-best friend and a rubber ducky. So it's just one of those things where I wonder how that dynamic's going to work. And the fact that we see Andy and Fatima standing side by side, and Karen is the one left in the cold, and now the victim mentality comes in, and she's going to go off on Andy. So I wonder what's going to happen with that. You know, as soon as Karen leaves, will Andy go chasing after her, and Fatima's left to wallow by herself? But then she goes to Karen, and then Karen dismisses her. So I hope this is eye-opening to Andy of how both of her friends treat her, where one of them treats her like an actual person and a friend, whereas another one really only interacts with her because I need somebody to vent to about my problems. So hopefully this is definitely an eye-opening episode for Andy. And it is sad to see, at least in the preview only, to see her being walked all over. She's trying to hold on to this friendship to appease Karen with as, you know, much energy as she can, kind of like with Gary. But at the same time, the badassery that was her telling off Maurice 2 weeks ago is going to be underplayed because of the way she's allowing herself to be walked all over by Karen. But like I said, that's only based on the preview. For all we know in the actual episode, she tells her ass off, which I would actually love. But really, that's all I have to say about the episode promo. Sorry it's late, but if you caught up on my community tab post, you know why that's the case. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you looking forward to this week's episode, or do you feel like it's going to be more of the same needless drama that's just going to, you know, attract people to get ratings? Let's talk about it, and I'll catch you in the next one.